Learning Objective 3 discusses the purpose of performance evaluation systems and gives us some details on one specific evaluation system in particular, the balanced scorecard. So first of all, what is a performance evaluation system? As we just mentioned in our prior lecture, when a company becomes decentralized, then our top management is no longer involved in the day-to-day operations of the organization. And so they need some way to be able to evaluate how those segment managers are performing in their roles, and they need to be able to maintain some control over the entire organization. And so this performance evaluation system helps to provide us with the framework in order to do that. The goals of a performance evaluation system, first of all, include promoting goal congruence. We said this could be one of the disadvantages of decentralization. So in order to make sure that we do have goal congruence between our segment managers and the entire organization as a whole, we might want to think about providing some incentives for how those subunits contribute toward achieving the overall strategic objectives of our organization. So in order to do this, though, we need to be able to communicate clearly what those expectations are for the overall long-term strategic objectives of our organization. And so these objectives need to be communicated and provided in great detail for those segment managers who are crucial to the success of our organization. And we also want to motivate these segment managers, okay, to have an incentive to want to perform in a way that is beneficial to the organization as a whole. And so some organizations consider providing bonuses to these segment managers, but this has to be done with great caution, because if we do provide bonuses for those organizations, then if we're trying to minimize costs, and we might have a segment manager who goes overboard in cost control and crucially cuts costs that are truly beneficial to the organization. And if we're rewarding for sales or reaching a target market goal, then we could possibly have some incentive for fraud for misstating those the actual results in order to obtain those bonuses. So we just have to be careful how we consider the motivation of segment managers. And then we're going to use the performance evaluation system to provide feedback. If you'll remember in our earlier discussion, the top management is now not as close to the actual production process and the daily operations of the organization. And so they need some feedback to maintain control over the organization, maintain control over those to which they've delegated responsibilities, and to be able to identify where any corrective actions or procedures for improving efficiency need to take place. And then finally, one of our final goals for the evaluating system is benchmarking. And there are multiple ways that we can do this with our responsibility centers and with our segment managers. And so we may compare the unit to their performance in a prior year. We could perform them to standards in the organization as a whole, or if we have multiple divisions operating that are generating the same product in different areas, and we could actually compare subunit to subunit. But we want to benchmark and understand what we need to do to perform at least as well as our competitors in the industry. Okay, so although we have incentives and goals for performance measurements, we also do have some limitations. Let me pull this here. Okay, so there are some limitations in using strictly financial performance measurements. Okay, because financial performance, our financial statements, the balance sheet, the income statement, the statement of cash flows, your book calls these lag indicators, and that is because these financial statements reveal past results. We're simply reporting what has taken place. And financial performance measures are very beneficial, so we can compare what we thought we should have done to what we actually did do in our production process. But we also need some leading indicators as well. Okay, so we need some performance measures, as your text says, to help us forecast what our future performance expectations are. So financial performance measures are good, but we have to realize that they are short term. This is what we've done in the past, and we can use that to predict what we would like to do in the future, but we also need long-term focus. We need some other strategic, non-quantitative, more qualitative related performance measures that we're also trying to obtain. So just realize financial performance measurements are good, but they can't be our sole means of evaluating our organization. So the balanced scorecard, which came out in the early 1980s, was a method that was developed to help management to consider both our financial performance and operational performance measures. And we came up with this phrase, KPIs, key performance indicators, some things that we can analyze to determine if we are achieving, if our company is achieving its goals. So the balanced scorecard came out to help analyze a company from 4 different perspectives. We also call these lenses, and one of them is the financial perspective, but there are others. So we also want to look at the customer perspective, internal business perspective, and learning and growth perspectives. Let's look at these in a little bit more detail. First of all, the financial perspective. How do our investors and creditors view us? They are the ones that are reviewing our financial information primarily, some of our external users. And so what they want to see is increasing profit. They want to see revenue growth. They want to see productivity, efficiency. So what are some of the KPIs that we could use to provide performance evaluation in the financial arena? And we have talked about several of those. What has been our net income growth, our sales, gross margin growth? What are our cash flows, positive, negative, from operating activities? What are we doing with the profit that we're generating? What is our return on investment and our residual income? So obviously, we want to find key performance indicators that relate to the particular perspective or lens that we are evaluating. So the financial we've discussed, but let's look at the other 3, which are more of qualitative factors. Our customers. In the customer perspective or lens, how do our customers see us? They are the driving force of our organization. And so they are primarily interested in our price, the product quality, our service quality, and our delivery time. And so if you look at some of the things that, what are things that we could do to measure whether our customers are actually satisfied with our processes in the long term, not just short term. Okay, if we get too caught up in satisfying customers short term and miss the long term objectives and goals of our organization, we're only going to be a short term profitable in the short term in our organization. So we can perform customer satisfaction rankings or surveys. We might identify what percentage of the market share does our company actually own. How much of that market are the customers actually attributing to us? What was the increase in the number of customers we've had over the past 5 years? What about this? Repeat customers. You would think if we have repeat customers, they're happy. What about customer complaints? And so if we have customer complaints or if we have sales returns, then obviously our customers aren't real happy with what we are doing. And so we have to identify what are those key performance indicators that we can use to measure how satisfied our customers actually are. Okay, so let's take a look at the internal business perspective. What about this? Improving efficiency and effectiveness. In order to be able to achieve profitability, so we've got financial and non-financial somewhat looking at here. What is our customer satisfaction through innovation, through operations, through post-sales service? So we're going to look at each of these factors. And so we have to continuously improve the existing products that we have? I mean, what if we were still back on the iPhone 4 without any additional improvements? So we've got to improve our existing products, and we have to be prepared to develop new products in the future. What about the new manless car? Okay, completely new innovation that Tech Bytes say will be, a very safe invention and will prevent the accidents that we have today with cars controlled by an individual. So an interesting perspectives. What are we doing with our products, and how effective are we in our internal operations, and what do we do with our post-sales service in order to generate more sales? Okay, so we might look at, have we developed new products? What is our development life cycle? Do we have defects? If we look at the automobile manufacturers, how many automobile recalls have we seen in the past decade? What about the number of units produced per hour? If we're warranting our product, how many times do we have to go out and settle warranty claims with our customers? What is our average time to repair a product and get it returned to the customer? What is the average wait time? So these are all key performance indicators that we can do to improve our business internally. So just a brief example here. Have you seen the viral video of the coat that was bought from Zulily or someone like that online, and the person realized before they opened the package that it wasn't going to be the type of material that they needed with their pets and their lifestyle, and so they called the company about sending the jacket or the coat back, and the company customer service representative says, just pass that coat on to someone who can use it, and let's find you a new one. Well, the video's gone viral, and so people have a lot of respect for the customer post-sales service that took place here. And so if you think about, that was a very inexpensive customer service trick that has improved how customers perceive this organization. And so we need to identify what are our goals, what are our objectives, and identify the key performance indicators that can help us identify if we are succeeding in this area. And then finally, learning and growth is our last perspective or lens. And how can we continue to improve and create value in our organization? We're looking at employee capabilities, information system capabilities. What is our climate for action to sustain customer satisfaction and to generate financial success in our organization? And so some of the things that we could look at: how many hours of training do our employees get? Are we cross-training them? What's the percentage of computer downtime in our organization? Do we have real-time feedback on information in our organization? What is employee satisfaction and turnover? And in a lot of places you'll have, do we have employee suggestions that are implemented? Companies that are trying to be more lean or to be more corporate sustainability friendly, increase safety awareness in our organization. How many times do we reward people, our employees, for actually making suggestions that we're going to implement? So this is not an all-inclusive list by any means, but it just is an example to show you that there are more ways to measure the performance of your organization than simply reviewing your financial statements. Let's keep in mind these different perspectives and how in each different organization would need to consider how each of these lenses align with their long-term strategic objectives of their organization.